Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the next episode number 3, configuring Azure Virtual Network. So, in this particular recording or episode, I will talk about complete in depth about Azure Virtual Network, how to configure, how to implement. And this is one of the important episodes for this AZ104 course because after that we'll talk about jump box, Bastion, firewalls, DNS, and other networking components. So let's start here. So whenever you want to deploy or assign IP addressing components to virtual machine, you need to build your virtual network. So virtual network is like a DSCP server. So like a DSCP server, whenever you want IP addressing component, you need to define a VNet. So this is your virtual network, which you need to define. When you define virtual network, you need to define address range, like a DSCP. In Azure, we called as address space. Example 10.0.0.0/16. 16 is a class B. So if you need to define class A/8, it will be a huge number of IP address range, and /16 is class B, 65,000 approximate IPs, class C/24. So 24 means 254 IPs. This is what overall range you need to define. And further, you need logical small chunks called subnets, subnet 1, subnet 2. Subnet number 1 is my web subnet. Subnet 2 is my SQL database subnet. As a best practice, for each set of application, you need define separate subnet. So my this will be suppose 10.0.0/24, 254 IPs. It is 00. So next one will be 10, and you build two servers here and two servers here. So Azure Virtual Network, like a DSCP, you need to define your private address range, as we know, 10 series or 172.16 or 192.168. Address space is overall range. Each set of application, example, web, SQL, you need to define, deploy a separate subnet. So tomorrow, customer said, okay, I need a SAP application. So you need to define a subnet number 3 called for SAP. This will be 10. So this will be 2.0. So this is important, 00, 10, 20. Now, when you define logical small chunks, subnets, and when you deploy VM number 1 into the subnet, because it's 00, so the first valid IP is 04. First three IPs are reserved in Azure. If I deploy a VM into the second subnet, which is 10 range, 14 is the IP of my second VM. So the first valid IP is IP number 4. So three methods to assign IP. How we assign IPs in real world: DSCP, dynamic, static, and reservation. Normally, this is the on-premises concept. In Azure, by default, when you deploy VM, it's always be a dynamic. VNet will assign one IP automatically. This is a default method. Static. Static means go inside to the VM, go to the network properties, TCP IP, like this, ncpa.cpl, and go to your network card inside the Azure VM and do this manual IP. That is not supported in Azure. So as soon as you deploy static IP manually, it is not supported. Your machine will be crash. The third is reservation. Like a DSCP reservation, in Azure we have a VNet reservation, NIC level reservation. I'll tell you why this is important. So now Example, I have two production servers, VM1, VM2 running. This IP is 10.0.0.4. This is 0.5. By default, the lease period is for 130 years nearby. So the IP is valid for 130 years to this particular VM. But there is a catch. If you shut down this VM for some maintenance purpose and some admin built a new VM, the IP is released as soon as you shut down. And the new VM, which is production VM, VM number 3, will got IP number 4. And when you turn on, you will get IP number 6. So in production, we should not change the IP unnecessarily, and we do normal maintenance activities. So practically, we don't want to change the IP. So then we have a concept called VNet level reservation. So at a NIC level, they will a dedicated IP for a particular VM. So that's we called as reservation. This is very mandatory steps. Why this is mandatory? Once you assign a VNet level reservation, then it has to be a permanent IP reserved by the VNet. And the question comes why Microsoft give IP number 4 to a VM, what they do for first three IPs. So one for gateway, one for broadcast, and one for future use. And meaning of 4 star asterisk. Step number C, reservation is mandatory for the production VM so that we don't want to change the IP at any point of time. So that's called VNet introduction. And by default, the communication allow between subnet 1 to 2, 1 to 3, and so on. So any communication between subnet, because it's a part of same VNet, it's always be allowed. Next, very important point, this VNet is in East US. So the my VM, when you attach to the VNet, it has to be in a East US. What does it mean? If I want to deploy a VM in the West US, you cannot link with this VNet because you want to deploy in West US, VNet is in East US. So it means everything is region specific. If you need VM into the West US, you need to deploy another VNet into the West US. That's very important point. Let's go with the demo. So I'll go to the resource group. I'm creating one new resource group. First time for this all this recording. So recording AZ104. It's in East US. Define virtual search, virtual network. So select your region, East US. So R for recording, VNet 001. So I'm defining 10.1.0.0.16. So 10.1.0.0. Subnet 1 default always be there 10.1. So remove. So I want specific subnets. Example subnet 1 for Jumpbox. In the next episode, I will cover up what is Jumpbox. So 10.1 is my range, 10.1.0.0/24. Subnet 2, Subnet 2 is my web subnet. So this is 10.1.0.0. So this one is 10.1.1.0. So 00.1.0. Subnet number 3 is my SQL database subnet. 10.1, that's 10. 00.1.0, now it's 20. So this way you define logical subnets, review and create. Now I'm going to deploy a virtual machine. So by default, when you deploy a virtual machine, which I'll show you, there is a NIC card. We'll get a private IP based on the subnet, say 10.0 or 10.1 we are working. So 10.1.0.0 or 04. This is the private IP. Microsoft will release a public IP also if you allow the checkbox called RDP and public IP. So they give you some XXX public IP. So if you are sitting somewhere, anywhere in the world over internet, you can connect with this public IP, do the RDP connect. So if you are learning here first time, connect with the public IP, it makes sense, no problem. But for security reason in production, we should not have public IP. We always connect with the private IP. That's called the secure way to connect Azure Virtual Machine. For that, we have two scenarios, Bastion host and Jumpbox concept, which I will cover in the episode number 4. So right now I'm deploying two VMs. One is with the Jumpbox subnet. So right now, as per our VNet, we have three subnets. Subnet number 1, subnet 2, subnet 3. Subnet number 1 is my Jumpbox subnet. Subnet number 2 is my web subnet. Subnet number 3 is my SQL subnet. Here I will deploy a virtual machine with public IP, and here I deploy one virtual machine without public IP. So let's deploy one virtual machine first. Simple, normal, regular virtual machine. Select virtual machine. So VM01 Jumpbox. High availability. This one is Windows 10 machine. I'm doing B2MS. Username and password. For this training purpose, I'm going to use a default password. RDP allow And public IP is always be enabled, public IP, and I'll make sure this is in jump box and public IP. It's a Windows 10 machine, so I confirm license and create. Deployment is still going on. So now my deployment is completed. So my VM01 jump box is running. So what is my IP address? We have public IP also. It's in recording VNet 001 subnet 1 jump box subnet, and IP is scroll down 10104. So if I go to my virtual networks, so I have recording AZ104 VNet East US. So address space, I have given 10.100, 16, 65,000 IPs. Connected devices, how many virtual machine connected? What is the IP? Which subnet? This VM. Total how many subnets we have? This way you can add plus subnet number 4, whenever you have further requirements. And in each, we have 251 IPs. First few IPs are reserved, I told you. So in this is 250 because we already have one machine in this jumpbox subnet, which is connected to jumpbox subnet. So that is the way you can check. So when I go to the virtual machine and go to the virtual machine jumpbox, I can copy the public IP and mstsc run, copy paste the IP and try to connect. Because RDP was on, checkbox was on, public IP enabled, so you can connect jumpbox with a public IP. In the next episode, I will tell you how to do a secure connect. So this is the way RDP works. And now by chance, I need to move to a subnet number 2. So go to the networking, go to the dedicated NIC card. That's called NIC card of a VM. So once again, virtual machine, select virtual machine, go to the networking, go to NIC card, ipconfig, and ipconfig1 dynamic. Here, if you need to move this VM into the subnet 2, you can select subnet 2 and save, which I'm not doing right now. This way you can move between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and so on. And this is a dynamic IP. So now I don't want that IP should be changed. So you can change to the static permanent reserve IP. So this is a way, option number C, any production VM has to be a permanent reserve IP, so that IP should not be changed. So even I shut down for 100 years and turn on the VM, IP will be still same. So thank you very much for joining this episode number 3, and see you on episode 4, Jumpbox and Bash and Service. Thank you very much.